Hello, everybody. We are Raider Readers, and we read The Nightingale by Kristin Hanna. It was published in 2015, and it is set in Nazi-occupied France during World War II. It follows two women who are sisters and their growth and journey through the war with each other. Um, they they fall in love, they fall out of love, they're surviving. It's focuses on themes of sisterhood and sacrifice, and it's very timely with Women's History Month. And disclaimer, just so you know, we are talking about the book in its entirety. So if you don't want any spoilers, don't listen. Go read the book; it's very good, and come back and hear what we have to say about it.
So this book follows two sisters, Vianne and Isabelle, during World War II in France as they undergo hardship, loss, romance, and challenges during this dangerous time period. As their town is occupied, Vianne must protect her child as her husband is away at war, while the more daring Isabelle leaves to find a way to help in the war effort.
Okay, so there are definitely a lot of themes that one could go into in this book, all mainly focused on two. The first one I think is very evident throughout the book is the impact of war on citizens. World War II especially was like a total war where citizens had a large role to play in like the home front especially. And this is shown a lot throughout the book through both Isabelle, who's taking a more direct route to resistance, and Vianne, who is trying to do her best without directly disrupting things. Another, theme that shows up is non-military resistance to war, which once again is shown through Isabelle. She doesn't like pick up a gun. She doesn't fight anyone. She doesn't really kill anyone, but she does play an important role in helping people, even if she doesn't do it mainly through violence.
Okay, so what did you guys think of the book? What parts specifically did you think were really powerful or interesting?
Okay, this is Miss G here. Really, just the bond of sisterhood, I think, was something that really stuck out to me, especially when Isabel was hiding the pilot in the garage, and Vianne was stopping the first captain from going in, and she ended up killing him, and that was not her intention. But I think the power of family and love is really significant in this book. And I think it played a huge role in the two sisters overall throughout the war.
I liked the book as well. I think what stood out to me the most, or that I liked the most, was Vienn's internal conflict, because she wants to do what she can to help with the war, but her main priority is to protect her daughter, and anything she did could potentially put her daughter at risk. So I thought it was interesting seeing how she handled that.
What really resonated with me the most was like love in the time of war. Like, war is such a difficult time to be in love, and yet there was still like kind of the normal experiences of it, like the heartbreak and the falling in love and just that emotional side to it. And it was interesting to see that like even despite the war, the love kind of persisted.
I really enjoyed the book. It was kind of heartbreaking, but the part I really enjoyed of the book was seeing how Vian and her daughter, how they've matured so much throughout the book.
I think like this book was really crazy. Like to me, just some of the stuff that happened was so sudden. I feel like all books about like war and like historical fiction is just often so you're like, wait, like they died, or like like, oh, someone just got shot. Like stuff like that's always happening. So I definitely had some of those moments where I was like had to go stare at a wall for a few minutes.
I also really enjoyed the book. What stood out to me was the cruelty, once again, which I've read a lot of books about World War II and the Nazis, and the cruelty still just kills me, and I don't understand how people can treat people like that. And for me, the scene that shocked me was when they were trying to get her friend and her daughter out, because I guess who was the first? You just said his name. Beck. So Beck had given them a signal that they were going to come and take all the children, and they try to escape, and all of a sudden, you find out that the girl is shot, the child is shot, and the mother loses her child in her arms. And I was just gutted by that. I did not expect that to happen. And, as a mother, and just made me think about war and what the women and the families that were left behind had to endure during World War II. And to me, like, that made me cry, and I had a hard time with it.
So, just something that I want to mention, kind of off of what Miss Michaud said, was the part when Isabel had been imprisoned and her father took the blame for being the Nightingale, and she had to watch him get killed. Like that, thinking about the loss of family and just how families were willing to sacrifice for families, and like Vianne and for Rachel and her children, and for other neighbors and their children, when she started bringing them to the orphanage. Like, it just makes you think about family and kind of the power of being connected with one another. I forgot that part where like she was in the prison and had to watch, or in the room, and she had to watch her father get killed and then put out in public to be like shamed and made an example of. So that was also another really significant part of the story for me, because I'm very close to my dad. So I don't know what I would do if that was me in her situation. So
And I'll just add on to that, Ms. G, which, I think her relationship with her father starts in the beginning, and it's a very strained relationship. The father is also reeling from his experience in World War One, where he was a soldier, and when he came home, he had a hard time with it, and he did not get along with his daughter at all. And as the book goes through, their relationship evolves and changes, and so I think that made that scene even more poignant, because they finally got together, and he saves her life, and yeah, it does.
I also think that kind of for me was just kind of gave me this sense of perspective of how lucky I am and how lucky we are. Like, not only am I lucky enough to not live in like a constant state of fear in a war zone and stuff like that, but also my dad was in the military up until his recent retirement, and he was deployed 7 times, and he could have in any of those moments gone through some of the things that are happening in this book. And when he came back, he was very lucky to not have experienced lots of PTSD like Vianne and Isabel's dad did. So I think that it just made me like sit and think about how lucky I am as a person.
Okay, so a big part of the book is the relationship between the sisters, Vianne and Isabel. What did you think of their relationship? Which character were you more drawn to in the book?
The character I was more drawn to was Isabel, because I wanted to see how she would grow in the book. And Vivian, I don't know, she kind of got me mad in the beginning, because she abandoned her sister to go live with her husband, and that really got me mad.
I definitely am Team Isabel. I thought she was a really great character, especially given the time when women didn't really have many choices in terms of what they could or could not do. And I just loved her rebellious spirit. It starts from the beginning when she's at boarding school, because they kept sending her away, and she just always got into trouble and got kicked out. And she was a little reckless in the beginning, which bothered me, and I understand that. But I also just appreciated her spirit of just pushing back and like really wanting to make a difference in the world. And when she becomes the Nightingale, and she helps all the people. She specifically helped the pilots who would crash, and she would save them and get them out of the country. And she did that for many years and was very successful with it and saved a lot of people's lives. And I thought she was such a strong female character. And I also kind of like the romance with her and Gaetan, which I thought was really sweet, although they didn't end up together. But her end really gutted me. I just like the way they ended her. That character's life was just very painful to me.
It was kind of tough for me to identify with one character because I feel like I was in the middle of both of them, where like Isabel is kind of in her teens, kind of getting into her womanhood, doesn't have any children, isn't thinking in terms of protecting children, whereas Vianne was in the stage of her life where that was her role, where she was a teacher, similar to me, but had children to protect and was kind of like it almost seemed like she was like the community, community center, like when people needed food or when people needed a place to go, or even just her students, like she was protecting them. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I was drawn to one more than the other. I just think they both had different roles and were leading different lives, but the commonality, I think, was that familial bond. And I think in times of turmoil, of catastrophe, of war, that family is something that always grounds people. And I think that even though it took, especially Vianne, a little bit longer, I think, to be grounded with protecting her sister, because all those years she had kind of neglected her sister, so to speak. I think kind of that really traumatic experience brought the two girls together. And even though they weren't physically together in the same place for more than what seemed like a day in the book, I think that connection, that bond that they built over protecting one another ended up growing and really was one of the best parts for me, I think, was that bond of siblinghood, not even just because I have a brother, but the sisterhood that they developed. But for me, it's more just like the familial aspect. So I don't know. I love both of them. It was hard to just be more into one than the other. But I love Isabel. She was courageous. She didn't care what anybody said. She did what she had to do. And I appreciated that from her.
I'm going to go against the grain a little bit and say that I was really more drawn to Vianne. Isabel is such a strong character, and I really admire her. Like, I know I couldn't handle those journeys over the Pyrenees Mountains, like rescuing the downed airmen right under the noses of the Nazis. But at the same time, I see a lot of myself in Vianne. She's a very cautious person, and I'm the same way. And at the same time, though, I was so proud of her when she started working to hide the Jews with the orphanage, like that. Like, I think I smiled, like physically, I was brought joy through that. And I was really excited for her because she, as we've mentioned, like, she had to be so cautious to protect herself and her child. And she, the first Nazi that she was housed with, he was just trying to get through and figure things out. But the second one, he was really in it to win it. And so when you're faced with such a difficult situation as that, and you get this opportunity to help people, maybe at your own expense and maybe at your daughter's own expense, that is such a hard choice to make. And I'm not comparing the bravery of the sisters, but I'm just saying, like, the different ways in which they did contribute to the war was really interesting to me. You've been listening to the Raider Readers discussion of The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. If you liked what you heard, speak to Miss Gonzalez or Miss Machado about joining the book club here at O'Neill. Thanks for listening and have a great day.